Hey guys, tonight we journey back thousands of years to the banks of the Nile, to a civilization known for pyramids, pharaohs and gods that watched your every move. But behind the gold masks and grand temples lies a much harsher reality. Today we're asking, what would really happen if you lived just one day in ancient Egypt? Because let me tell you, the sun isn't the only thing that will roast you alive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Welcome to ancient Egypt, land of pyramids, gods, and relentless ultraviolet violence. Before you even open your eyes, the sun is already blasting through your reed hut, like it's auditioning for the role of unforgiving sky god. There are no curtains, no shades, and certainly no air conditioning. Just the raw, unforgiving heat of the desert, baking everything, including you. By breakfast, you're lying on a straw mat with a linen sheet that's more suggestion than protection. The Nile breeze you were promised in all those travel documentaries? Yeah, it's gone. Probably died sometime around 2800 BC. By the time you stumble outside, the temperature is already flirting with 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or around 32 Celsius. And it's not even mid-morning. The sun doesn't just shine in ancient Egypt, it attacks. Your linen tunic, useless. It's like wearing tissue paper in a sauna. And don't even think about sunscreen. There's no aloe vera, no SPF 50, not even a floppy hat with a logo from a beach resort. Ancient Egyptians did have protective oils, but unless you're wealthy or work in a temple, you're not getting any of it. Your best option? Smear yourself with mud or crocodile dung, which apparently might keep you from turning into a human torch. Emphasis on might. By midday, the stones under your feet are hot enough to cook lentils. Shade is a luxury. Trees are rare. You might get a little relief hiding behind a mud brick wall, but even that wall is sweating by now. You, on the other hand, look like someone threw you into a clay oven and forgot to set a timer. And you better not complain. Ra, the sun god, is watching. And in ancient Egypt, the sun wasn't just weather, it was divine authority. The hotter the day, the more powerful Ra was feeling. So, basically, if you're melting, it's a spiritual compliment. In short, surviving one day in ancient Egypt requires hydration, humility, and an ironclad tolerance for feeling like a roast chicken. And this is just the morning. You're finally out of bed, or rather, off your scratchy straw mat. And the good news is, the Nile is just a short walk away. The bad news? You can already smell it before you see it. Yes, the mighty Nile, the life-giver of ancient Egypt, revered as sacred, the reason civilization here even exists. But let's be honest, it also smells like a fish market had a bad breakup with a swamp. The banks are buzzing with flies, frogs, and things that probably shouldn't have legs but do. Still, this is where you bathe. Soap hasn't been invented yet, and even if it had, you couldn't afford it. Instead, you lather yourself in the freshest cleansing technology of the day. Sand. That's right, exfoliation the Egyptian way. Just rub yourself down with coarse grains and call it skincare. It's like nature's sandpaper, but less effective. Washing clothes? Also done in the Nile, and by washing, we mean pounding them against rocks, while praying that a crocodile doesn't mistake your laundry for a tasty midday snack. Oh, and just to make things more fun, let's not forget the occasional sewage runoff from upstream. Remember, people, livestock, and the occasional funeral boat all share this river. And yet, somehow, this is considered clean. You scrub, rinse, and emerge feeling slightly less sticky, and only moderately more worried about leeches. If you're a city dweller in Memphis or Thebes, you might be lucky enough to use a public basin or cistern. But for everyone else, it's Nile or nothing. And don't expect privacy. This is a public bathing space, shared by families, neighbors, livestock, and the odd ibis pecking around your ankles like it pays rent. Water jars are filled and balanced on heads, carried back to your mud brick house before the midday heat turns the clay into toast. It's a daily ritual, spiritual, necessary, and slightly traumatic. So yes, the Nile is sacred. It feeds you, cleans you, and quenches your thirst. But let's not pretend it's a sparkling oasis. In reality, it's part miracle, part biohazard, and all you've got. By now, you've bathed in the crocodile-infested Nile, you've sandpapered yourself semi-clean, and your body feels like a baked fig. Time for breakfast, the most important and least glamorous meal of your ancient Egyptian day. Let's set expectations. There are no eggs Benedict, no fruit bowls, and absolutely no iced lattes. Breakfast in ancient Egypt is less of a culinary event and more of a tactical refueling operation. You sit on a low stool if you have one, or just squat in the corner like everyone else. The centerpiece of your meal? Bread. Lots of it. Dense, coarse, and often as chewy as a leather sandal. It's made from emmer wheat or barley, and baked in clay ovens that may or may not be shared by the local rats. And don't be surprised if there's sand in your slice. Not as a topping, just an uninvited ingredient from the grinding stones. A daily dose of minerals, you could say. Then comes the beer. But don't get excited. This isn't crisp, bubbly craft ale. This is thick, cloudy, lukewarm, liquid bread. More porridge than pint. It's packed with calories and vaguely fermented. A medieval smoothie with the faint taste of sour cereal and survival. Even children drink it. Not to be edgy, but because it's safer than water. At least the brewing process boils out the parasites, unlike the Nile, which we just discussed is basically a petri dish. If you're lucky, and we mean very lucky, you might get an onion or a few dried dates to go with your carbon foam combo. Protein? Only if someone caught a fish and didn't immediately eat it raw. And as you chew your rock-like loaf and sip your grain sludge, flies buzz around you like it's a buffet. Because it is. For them, you swat at them with one hand, hold your cup with the other, and try not to think too hard about the fact that this is likely the best meal you'll have today. Breakfast in ancient Egypt isn't about flavor. It's about function. It fuels your body just enough to survive until the next time someone hands you another sand-infused brick of bread. Bon appetit. You've had your gritty bread, your chunky beer, and just enough rest to call yourself functional. Now, it's time to work. And trust me, ancient Egyptian labor makes modern burnout look like a spa day. Unless you're a scribe, priest, or royalty, which, let's be honest, you're not. Your job is pure muscle and dust. No air-conditioned cubicle, no coffee breaks, no ergonomic chairs, just sweat, sand, and a constant risk of collapsing before noon. If you're a farmer, you'll be ankle-deep in Nile mud by sunrise, yanking weeds or planting barley under the eye of an overseer whose hobby seems to be yelling. You use wooden plows, crude sickles, and your bare hands. If your back hurts, congratulations, that means it's working. If you're a laborer, things get even more biblical. Imagine hauling multi-ton stones for temple construction under a blazing sun, while barefoot, up ramps made of gravel and prayer. There's no OSHA here. You trip. That's a broken ankle and a shrug from the foreman. Working on tombs? That's another level of grind. You're hammering limestone, chiseling out burial chambers for people who'll get to rest longer than you ever will. And if you mess up a pharaoh's tomb, let's just say job security might involve a sealed chamber and a curse. And if you're a woman, you're not off the hook. Domestic work is also physical labor. Grinding grain, hauling water, weaving linen, caring for kids, and still helping in the fields. Your break is when the baby naps. For 7 minutes, while you prepare dinner, you eat on the go, you wipe sweat with your tunic. You keep moving, because slowing down means falling behind. And falling behind means someone else gets your grain quota, and you get the blame. There's no clocking out. The sun is your supervisor. When it finally sinks behind the horizon, you crawl home half alive, dust-caked, and dreaming of softer sandals and a less aggressive sun god. Work in ancient Egypt isn't just hard, it's endless. It's a full-body commitment to survival, day after day, until your body gives out or your overseer decides you're not worth feeding. And that's not even the worst of it. After sweating your soul out in the fields or quarry, you might be tempted to grumble. Maybe something small. A little, this job stinks. Or, why am I doing this again? Stop, right there. Because in ancient Egypt, complaining isn't just frowned upon, it's potentially treason. Why? Because your boss isn't just a ruler, he's a literal god. The pharaoh isn't some guy who got elected or born into a lucky family. He's the human embodiment of Horus, son of Ra. chosen by the heavens to rule over Egypt and keep Ma'at, divine cosmic order, intact. In other words, if the river floods well this year, thank the pharaoh. If it doesn't, well, maybe you didn't pray hard enough. Questioning his authority isn't just rude, it's blasphemy. Speaking ill of him could land you a date with a whip, a set of shackles, or an early trip to the underworld with none of your favorite burial goods. You see his face everywhere, on statues, temple walls, coins, even bread molds. His name is chanted in rituals. His image is painted larger than everyone else's in every mural. That's not artistic exaggeration, that's law. And don't expect to ever see him. If you're a commoner, the closest you'll get is watching a golden bark float by during a religious festival. Blink, and he's gone. Back to a palace you'll never enter, surrounded by officials, guards, scribes, and enough gold to finance a small civilization. Which, fun fact, he basically does. If you're lucky enough to work on a royal project, say, a tomb, a temple, or a statue the size of a mountain, you serve with divine joy. At least, that's what the state says. You say it too, because pretending you're honored to carve stone for 14 hours a day is safer than the alternative. And don't even think about rebellion. Pharaohs crush uprisings faster than you can say, dynasty. Just ask the last village that tried to withhold taxes. Oh wait, you can't. It no longer exists. So yes, the pharaoh is divine. And you? You're just lucky to be allowed to sweat in his name. Now get back to work. If you thought surviving under the sun was hard, just wait until you realize that in ancient Egypt, sand is your roommate, co-worker, seasoning, and mortal enemy. It's everywhere. In your clothes, in your bed, in your food. There is no escaping it. You could be working, praying, sleeping, or minding your own business in the market. And suddenly, a gust of hot wind sweeps by and turns your face into a grainy exfoliation experiment you didn't ask for. Let's start with the clothes. You wear linen. It's light, breathable, and about as effective at keeping sand out as a screen door is at holding back soup. It slides down your tunic, clings to your skin, and somehow finds its way into places you didn't know had creases. Eating? Good luck. Every loaf of bread is basically a sand trap. Since flour was ground between stone slabs, little bits of grit made their way into the dough. Egyptians didn't just eat their wheat. They ate their millstones too. It's why ancient dental remains are often worn flat like river rocks. Imagine chewing your breakfast while also filing your molars, daily. And if you thought your house was a sand-free zone, think again. Your mud brick home has gaps, crevices, and windows with no glass. Perfect portals for wind-blown sand. Your floors are covered, your cooking pots are full, your bed is basically a sand pit disguised as furniture. Shoes? Optional at best. Most Egyptians walked barefoot, meaning you're always one step away from turning your feet into battered leather sandals. If you do have footwear, it's usually a basic pair of sandals made from reeds. Fashionable? Perhaps. Protective? Not remotely. Then there are sandstorms. Egypt's version of a slap from the gods. Sudden, swirling, blinding. One moment you're talking to a friend, the next you're spitting dust and feeling like someone dumped an entire beach into your eye sockets. Visibility drops to zero, and everyone around you turns into vaguely coughing silhouettes. In short, sand is the roommate who never leaves, the spice in every meal, and the silent enemy of your eyes, lungs, and dignity. It's not just the backdrop of your life, it's part of your body now. And no, you can't wash it off, you already tried. In the Nile, which is probably full of more sand. In ancient Egypt, religion isn't just a weekend activity, it's the operating system for everything. Your job, your diet, your hygiene routine, your bedtime rituals, all dictated by gods who seem to have very specific opinions. First, understand this. The gods are everywhere. Your town has temples to a dozen different deities, each responsible for some vital function. There's Ra, who pilots the sun across the sky like it's a divine Uber. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, is in charge of scribes and moon calendars. Sobek, part crocodile, part nightmare fuel, guards the Nile. And Bastet, the cat goddess, basically runs public relations. Forget personal freedom. Your daily routine revolves around pleasing them. Wake up, thank Ra, spill some beer, apologize to Hathor, stub your toe, curse quietly, or risk attracting a spirit with a grudge. Before meals, you offer a bit of food to the gods. Before bed, you pray that Set, god of chaos, doesn't toss your house into existential disarray overnight. Even funerals are multi-day affairs where the deceased must pass tests, avoid demons, and prove they were morally decent, or risk eternal erasure. Speaking of the afterlife, ancient Egyptians took it very seriously. You don't just die and move on. You must pass a judgment process, involving your heart being weighed against a feather of truth. If your heart's heavier because of lies, cruelty, or maybe stealing someone's goat, you're eaten by Amit, a creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the legs of your worst nightmare. So yes, even in death, you're still on probation. But here's the twist. This complex belief system isn't depressing, it's comforting. Egyptians believed life was part of a cosmic balance, and if you followed the rituals and upheld Ma'at, the principle of truth and order, you had a chance at a peaceful eternity, complete with food, family, and maybe a boat. Of course, the richer you were, the more gods seemed to notice you. Temples were massive, priests were powerful, and peasants? Well, they just hoped the gods were feeling generous that day. Because in ancient Egypt, faith isn't optional. It's your job description, your insurance plan, and your travel itinerary for the next life. So you've stepped on something sharp, got bit by something weird, or caught something contagious, which in ancient Egypt is basically Tuesday. Time to seek medical care. Just don't expect a waiting room or a sterile environment. You're about to be healed with a combination of spells, herbs, and sheer optimism. First, you'll be taken to a doctor, and to be fair, they were some of the most advanced in the ancient world. They had surgical tools, medical texts, and a decent understanding of anatomy. But here's the catch. Science in ancient Egypt always came with a heavy dose of magic. You're given a poultice made of honey, moldy bread, and crushed herbs. Honey actually is antibacterial, and mold has early penicillin properties. So it works? Sort of. But before applying it, the healer will chant a protective spell just to be safe, because you never know when your stomach cramps are actually the result of a spiteful ghost or an angry god. Have a headache? You might get a dose of crushed onions rubbed into your scalp while someone recites a hymn to Thoth. Got a cough? Let's smear cow dung mixed with dates on your chest and see what happens. Eye infection? Time for a paste of lizard blood, ochre, and beer, plus a prayer to Horus. Surgery? It did happen. Sometimes. Abscesses were drained, bones were set, and wounds were stitched with linen thread. But there's no anesthesia. Just a sharp knife and a friend to hold your shoulders down while you scream into a mud brick pillow. Dentistry? Not great. Remember all that sand in the bread? Your teeth are worn down by your 22nd. If one gets infected, your options are 1. Live with it. 2. Die from it. Or 3. Have it pulled with something resembling pliers made by a blacksmith with low standards. And let's not forget the amulets. Whether you're giving birth, getting stitched up, or just sneezing too loud, a good doctor/priest will probably hang a charm around your neck, just in case the real issue is an invisible serpent spirit curled around your spleen. So yes, Egyptian medicine had its moments, but mostly, you'd better believe in the gods, because your band-aid is literally a prayer. Here's a plot twist most people don't expect. Ancient Egyptian women had more rights than many women in later civilizations. They could own property, run businesses, file for divorce, and even take a man to court. Sounds progressive, right? But before you pack your bags for a time-traveling girl boss vacation, hold up, because while the legal status might impress you, the day-to-day reality, not so glamorous. If you're a woman in ancient Egypt, you probably wake up before sunrise. You're grinding grain by hand, using a giant flat stone that chews through both wheat and your spine. Then it's off to haul water from the Nile, cook breakfast, care for children, manage the household, feed animals, and if needed, help in the fields. You're a one-woman workforce in linen. There's no me time, no spa days, and definitely no maternity leave. Childbirth is risky and painful. Midwives are helpful, sure, but there are no epidurals, no disinfectant, and no push playlists featuring relaxing harps. You give birth in a hot room with incense, prayers, and hopefully, not too much bleeding. Let's talk fashion. Linen dresses are light and breathable, but there's no underwear and no shoes. The sun scorches your skin, the sand grinds into everything, and the bugs think you're an all-you-can-eat buffet. Want makeup? Great. Egyptian women did wear cosmetics, but it's lead-based and applied with sticks that look suspiciously like toothpicks. Now, if you're lucky enough to be born into a wealthy family, things are better. You might read, write, manage estate accounts, or become a priestess. If you're born royal, you could even become pharaoh, like Hatshepsut or Cleopatra, who ruled with brilliance and terrifying eyeliner. But if you're poor, your status may be legal, but your reality is physical. You work, sweat, bend, carry, birth, bury, and pray. You're not chained by law, but by survival. Still, Egyptian women had agency, and that mattered. They could speak in court, keep their inheritance, and didn't become property when they married. Compared to many ancient societies, that's huge. So yes, Egyptian women had rights. But comfort? That's reserved for statues and goddesses, not the woman elbow-deep in dough while swatting flies off a toddler. You made it through another grueling day in ancient Egypt. You ate your gritty bread, hauled your buckets, avoided divine wrath, and maybe even dodged a sandstorm. Time to relax, right? Wrong. Because in ancient Egypt, your real test begins after you die. Death isn't the end. It's just the beginning of an incredibly bureaucratic, multi-phase journey through the underworld. And if you thought the labor overseer was strict, wait until you meet the gods of judgment. First, your soul takes a trip to the Hall of Ma'at. Here, before a tribunal of 42 deities, you must proclaim your innocence in what's basically the oldest legal deposition in history. You say things like, "I did not steal, I did not lie, I did not covet my neighbor's donkey," all while hoping the gods buy it. Then comes the heart test, literally. Your heart, believed to be the seat of the soul, is placed on a scale opposite the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth, justice, and balance. If your heart is heavier than the feather, well, that means you've lived a wicked life. Enter Amit, part lion, part crocodile, part hippo, all terrifying. She doesn't arrest you, she doesn't fine you, she eats your soul, destroying it forever. No afterlife, no second chances, just eternal non-existence, which in a culture obsessed with eternity is the ultimate punishment. And it gets better. You can doom yourself not just by actions, but by words. One wrong confession, one forgotten line during your judgment, and boom, spiritual obliteration. It's like an open book test where failure means getting devoured by a mythological death hybrid. If you do pass, congratulations. You get to enter the field of reeds, a peaceful, idealized version of Egypt where your soul lives forever, with boats, with crops, with family, and presumably with fewer sand fleas. But the stakes? Enormous. That's why Egyptians obsessed over tomb preparation, funeral rites, and magical texts like the Book of the Dead, a spiritual cheat sheet full of prayers, spells, and helpful tips like don't insult the crocodile god. So yes, the afterlife might be beautiful, but only if you live your life very carefully. One curse word, one unpaid temple tax, and your next stop is lunch for Amit. Sleep tight. If there's one small mercy in ancient Egypt, it's this: linen. Blessed, breathable linen. Your entire wardrobe, and everyone else's, is made from this plant-based fabric. It's light, cool, and lets your skin breathe in the scorching heat. That's the good news. The bad news? That's pretty much where the comfort ends. Whether you're a farmer, builder, priest, or vendor, you're wearing the same outfit every day. For men, a short, white kilt or loincloth. For women, a straight, sleeveless linen dress, sometimes held up by straps, sometimes not. If you're upper class, you might have pleats or beads or fancy patterns.